And before we get into the episode today, just a big thank you to all of our patrons and our producers here on Esoteric Atlanta. Without you guys, this channel would not be possible. If you would like to help support the work we do here on Esoteric Atlanta, there is a link to our Patreon account down in the description box below. All right, everybody, welcome back to Esoteric Atlanta. Of course, my name is Brice, and I am so excited about this show today because this is a topic that is so fascinating to me. So many people call us crazy for this topic, but there is just such undeniable evidence. And I'm going to introduce you. A lot of you guys already know my guest here today, but I'm going to go ahead and introduce you for those who don't. We've got Midwest Night Watchers with us. How you guys doing?
Good. Thank you for having us.
Of course. So you guys, I'm going to have their links all down in the description box below. Please make sure to go and subscribe so that we can share the love and continue to talk about these taboo topics. Most of us get put in the corner by the algorithms because we dare to question the narrative. And so you guys, thank you so much for coming today. You guys might recognize them from the chat too. They're in the chat a lot with our premieres that we do here on Esoteric Atlanta. And I'm just so excited, you guys, because we are going to be talking about Egypt, and the lies they have told us about our history and, more importantly, our geography. So my first question to you guys before we get into, because I know you guys have stuff for us today, for Gerald and Jane, what point were you guys like, oh my God, we've been lied to? Like, what was that moment for you when everything crumbled in your mind?
Go ahead, Jane.
I don't know when it really started with me. I've been awake since the late 1980s.
I was like 1800. I was like,
oh my gosh, I married a vampire, I think.
It's like you're going to start a conspiracy.
I'm really old. The late 1980s, I started waking up to the Masons and everything. So,
yeah.
But with the Egypt and everything, it had to been just the last few years. And the more rabbit holes we went down, I went, oh my gosh, we've been lied to about that. Go down another rabbit hole. Oh my gosh, we've been lied to about that. I'm to the point now, I don't think there's one thing that they told us that's true.
Yeah, same. What about you, Gerald? When was that moment for you?
Well, my moment's actually when we started doing Old World and Tartaria, and the mud floods, and Jane kind of brought me into that world. I was always in, conspiracies and all that stuff, but not really that itself. But when Jane started showing me the architecture in the old world and Tartaria and big giant doors and all this stuff, and half buried windows, it's like it started clicking together. Then it kind of led into this Egyptian in North America with the Grand Canyon. I think you and Jessica Jones talked about it. You've talked about it a couple of times on your show. So and it seems like more and more people are coming out with it now.
It's crazy. And I think for us, I don't know about you guys, but I always say this, like, it doesn't really matter to me where Egypt is. It's just the fact that we've been so lied to about stuff. That's the problem. But I think for us as Americans, I go back and forth in my mind because I think we have this, like, as Americans, we kind of romanticize, like, how we came to be as Americans, and we come to the American Revolution then comes into question. Like, there's all these, like, this grayness around, like, what actually happened with the mud floods, and did the story of I had one person say to me once, gosh, next thing you know, they're going to tell us Columbus actually sailed from the American continent and found Europe. Like, flip it,
Right.
But I do know, one of my good friends is originally from Peru. She spent most of her life here in the southeastern United States, and I've been fortunate enough to travel and live all around the world. There's something very magical about the United States, very powerful about this land, right? Appalachian Mountain is it is the oldest mountain chain in the world. Tennessee means the land of Isis. it's undeniable. And of course, the Grand Canyon, Kincaid's findings, and the fact that the Grand Canyon has now been locked away, and we can't. Have you guys seen the latest video on TikTok where they stopped this pack of like Indian men crossing at the southern border, and they ask where they came, what town they flew into, and they say, no, we walked.
Oh,
It's crazy, and people are pulling up Tartarian maps and showing how they're landlocks.
Right.
And did these people find these little landlocks? And I've guessed for a while now that we're actually not as far away as we think we are. Maybe we're being held in the sky. I don't know. Like, I think that the continents are actually closer than we think we are, which is going to really piss me off. If we could just
Our maps are definitely off. I mean, because they try to show a sphere and a flat Earth map, kind of at the same time. And so the proportions of the continents and the distance between them are not correct on the modern maps that we show.
right.
You have to take that in effect. And like maybe when the Egyptians or the early, whatever the people were that were indigenous to this to begin with or came here, the lands might have been connected, like you said. Like you talk about all the continents and the continental divide and the drift and all that. I mean, when they came here, and I have a little part from a history book that says about people getting here and didn't know who was here before them, but there was artifacts left for them.
Yeah, well, let's get into it, because I know you guys got a lot of stuff, and I'm going to let you guys just take over, because there is just such a plethora of information, and it's kind of wild because it's taken a lot of independent researchers and just regular old people like us to do some digging to put this information together, because obviously this is not what's being taught in schools.
Right. Well, if you look in the biblical also, when it talks about the Niles, it talks about 7 rivers going into it. The Niles does not have 7 rivers, but the Mississippi does.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's where I kind of went, oh, okay.
Well, that would make New Orleans Alexandria.
Yes.
We know that like Cleopatra's grave is missing, and I'm like, well, it's because you're looking in the wrong freaking sea. Like, go look at the Gulf of Mexico or America, whatever it's called now, that area. Go look there.
Well, it would be the Egyptian Sea.
Yeah.
So, and that reminds me, I was going to bring it up, but I didn't get the photos ready today. But I have pictures of an archaeologist that says down at the bottom of Louisiana in the islands right off there that they have found Egyptian pyramid and a civilization underneath New Orleans. So if the Mississippi flows in there, then you're talking about Cleopatra, and so there you go.
Why is it there's more pyramids over here than there is in Egypt?
Anywhere else in the world, the American continent has been most. And what I found out just recently in my research is that archaeologists are not allowed to legally call a pyramid in the American continent a pyramid. They have to call it a mound.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Look at all the mounds we have that they've covered up. Uh-huh.
I mean, the Smithsonian is more trouble than it's worth. Like, the Smithsonian should be defunded. Like, they have done nothing but corrupt everything. I will say the first time for people who are interested in researching, a little trick I learned many years ago, somebody had asked me to cover the giants, and I wasn't super interested in covering the giants, but it ended up being like one of my most fascinating deep dives, because it was like, holy crap, there's way more giant bones. Like, this totally blows evolution out of the water. And I ended up discovering these lawsuits that were just online, where these archaeologists had actually sued the Smithsonian for incinerating giant fossils.
Right.
Thinking that they would help them. And their literal defense was, we have to preserve the narrative. So in these lawsuits, the Smithsonian is basically admitting that they are getting rid of evidence that gives us a different historical timeline. Look at what's happening with Göbekli Tepe right now. All these different government organizations are stepping in, and it's caused them to have to halt their digs, because Göbekli Tepe totally destroys the narrative.
Yeah, if you want to rewrite history, you have to change the narrative, and that's exactly what they're doing. The Smithsonian's hiding the evidence for them, so they're going out there like, okay, we're going to help you, we're going to archive it, but they slowly just get rid of it, and you never see it again.
Yep.
But it's the same way with like the Trail of Tears, that they drugged the Native Americans or the indigenous people, but they might not have been the original indigenous people, but anyway, but they had to convey them as being wild, uncontrollable, savages. How many times in history have you seen them called savages in movies and stuff, and like they're barbaric? But we know as a culture, they were very well tuned with the earth and Mother Nature and preserving and only taking what they needed. But they can't give us that narrative.
No. Well, they also can't give us the narrative that, as I was saying in my little history book, I bought it from the 1800s, that it wasn't just, it was all races of Native Americans. They were white people here. And in fact, the Cherokee, that I live in Cherokee land, Jessica Jones and I have talked about this. The Cherokee would tell the settlers about the Moon-eyed people. And
Right.
the settlers thought they meant like white people. And they were like, no, no, no. And they would say, no, we know what there's some of us that look like you. Like they called themselves red, and there was white tribes and there were black tribes. The Moon-eyed people were totally different. The Moon-eyed people, and now archaeologists have found like statues of these, like they look like Oompa Loompas, like they're little, big, they have big eyes, and they look humanoid, but they weren't humanoid like weirdly, us, the Native Americans, black people, Asian people, we all have kind of the same structure, just different colored skin. They were very different in the way and they couldn't come out during the daytime because of their skin. They had to come out at night. That's why they called them the Moon-eyed people. And the Cherokee basically said, we slaughtered them and took this land from them, and they ran off. The remainder of them ran off and never to be seen again. And they have literally erased the Moon-eyed people from our history books. But the Cherokee were very clear that not only were there other civilizations here first, but that they knew who white people were, blonde-haired, blue-eyed white people, because there were Native American tribes who had blonde hair and blue eyes, as is also stated in this 1800s grammar school history book. It's wild. So for us white people, are we immigrants from Europe, or are we actually from America? Like,
Right. And the same thing with the Egyptians, the Egyptian culture. They have talked about white Egyptians and black Egyptians, and so there's multiple colors of their skin wherever their ethnicity. I said that wrong, but anyway, they came there with different complexes. So there might have been different tribes inside the Egyptians also. And if they came to America, that makes sense that the Native Americans would have 3 or 4 different skin colors to match whatever tribe or section of the U.S. they were in.
Absolutely. Well, I always laugh. People might remember years ago when I was starting to look at hieroglyphs from Egypt. And I said that too. I said, there's every race under the sun is in these. They're drawn in these pictures of of different races. We're all living, because we know, well, we believe that the Egyptians were the descendants of the Atlanteans, who were all, according to the Cassiopeians, none of us humans are actually from this earth. We're all star seeds. Congratulations, guys, every single one of us. Everyone argues about that, and the Cassiopeians are like, none of y'all are from here. You're all from, we're the one planet that has a combination of many different constellations, and that was the Atlantean. And they kind of knew that. And I used to laugh and say the only group of people that's missing are the blue people. There would be blue people. Yeah. But they've been found. People found them in Kentucky, that there are certain people that had blue skin.
Right.
Yeah.
So I believe that if Egypt was here in America, that explains why these history books talk about the Native Americans being of all races. So Anyway, I'm going to let you take it over with your slides.
All right. Well, we'll start with the history book that I found and a little snippet from it, and then we'll just continue on from there.
Perfect.
So if you can see that, this is a 1910 U.S. history book, and I found this through a TikTok. I can't remember. I'd give the person credit, but I can't remember who it was. Can you see the next one?
Yep.
All right. So it says the mounds, the ruined cities, pottery, and other remains since found in all parts of the land concerning which the Indians could furnish no information, and which showed that the state of the civilizations far in advance of theirs were the proof that a great people had existed here in remote past who had flourished and disappeared without leaving any trace whereby they could be accounted for or identified. So this was scholars went in the 1800s is when this was done, actually, and they went and interviewed all the elders of the tribes all across the U.S. and they all said there was people here before them, but they weren't here when we got here. And our elders told us that this was here when we came came into existence. That all this pottery and buildings and tools were all here, and we just utilized it.
Yeah.
So it's amazing. So, you know, were these the mound builders? Were these the Egyptians? Were these something else before that? I mean, there's just so much, but obviously this is proof that they, in their oral history, that there was people here and things here before them. And this is the Native Americans that we have today. This is from their oral history.
So they're not, you know, there's a big smear campaign now again in, you know, in the woke culture about, you know, us white people being here and this is native land, but it actually, it's not their native land. We're all,
right.
Yeah. So we're just as freely here than they are. If they're saying, no, like these are not our ruins.
Right.
Absolutely.
Why were we told that it was nothing here except teepees all over also?
Right.
There's buildings all over. I mean, they were using these buildings. They weren't living in teepees out in the desert.
No.
So as you can see, this is the mounds from the 1890s to 91. So you can see all the mounds from Florida all the way up through Illinois, Tennessee, Kentucky, Wisconsin, Michigan. I mean, it just everywhere, Ohio especially. I mean, they're just look how complex and how big this civilization was, the mound builders. And you know, were they Egyptians? Were they actually the mound builders? Because there definitely weren't all Native Americans, because a lot of these mounds, just like we talked about Tartaria, it's like foundations upon foundations upon foundations built. So the mounds that we see today, there's actually substructures below them.
So if we replace mound with pyramid, I mean, that's the pyramid. I've heard people call the Egypt and Africa the decoy Egypt or the Disneyland Egypt. That's the entertainment park Egypt. If we consider all these red dots to be pyramids, this makes Egypt and Africa look pathetic, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Right. And if we talked about the Mississippi River, so look at all the mounds.
Wow.
Look at the concentration coming down, and they call the southern part of Illinois Little Egypt anyway.
Right.
So I have a lot of viewers who are not from America. Can you just show your mouse so they can see? I mean, I know where it is. It's where all that, as I'm pointing to the screen, like people can see my finger pointing at the screen. Kind of show where the Mississippi River is for my viewers who are not from the United States.
Right. So if you follow down all through the states.
Yep.
And it is basically its outlines all the way through from the top. I mean, it's like the longest river in the U.S. and it's actually a little bit longer than the Nile in Egypt, if you consider that the real Nile in Egypt. And it goes all the way down to Louisiana. And we talked about what should be right down here in off these islands. They talked where we were talking about the pyramid foundations being found in the Gulf of Mexico or Gulf of America, however you want to say it.
And New Orleans is right there.
Yes, absolutely. So this shows hills or mounds and what actually they've been finding buried when they do like South America or wherever. when they tear apart the terra firma, they get rid of the trees and the dirt and the soil. And this is what they find on the inside. They find temples, pyramids, basically. So is that true in the US? If we take a lot of these giant mounds and start, it's not all dirt and it's not all skeletons. There's actually structures in some of these.
Yeah, it's not just Indian mounds.
So for thank you for bringing that up. For my viewers who are not from the United States, as Americans, we were taught as kids that these mounds were Indian mounds where they would mass bury their dead. That's what we were taught as children. So that's when they said they're not, bodies or skeletons. And which, if they say common sense ain't so common. And I think we just kind of accepted it growing up. But thinking about that, it's like, that doesn't make any sense. Because people obviously pass away at different times. So what they're just kind of throwing, that doesn't make any sense, right? But,
So if you go to South America, you find all these pyramid looking mounds or these hills, and we have that in the US. And Japan just within the last 20 years or so have found big giant mountains that look like pyramids, and they started to find structures in there, but then the government stopped them from excavating or doing archaeological dig.
Wow.
Because I think they wanted to cover up their ancestry.
Of course they did. Of course well, that's the thing too. We talk about, actually it was so funny when you showed the map of the mounds,
right
up in the corner of Georgia where South Carolina, North Carolina and Georgia meet, that area right up there in the north where it's South Carolina, Georgia, North Carolina, Tennessee. There's a bunch of mounds right there, you guys. That's where Jessica goes a lot to Bigfoot hunt. That's where we go a lot I've had 2 different skinwalker experiences up in that area. And that is it. But they have marked off, a lot of this is like national park. And anytime a government steps in and marks off, you can't do anything.
Right.
They tell you it's to preserve it, but it's so you won't. And I want to ask, so when I was a little girl, I want to ask you guys this, and we've talked about this before on another show. We would find like arrowheads in our backyard all the time. All the time. And it was cool to bring it into show and tell. Well, now, I don't know about where you guys are, but in the state of Georgia, and that might be a federal law, actually, because my boyfriend goes out and tries to, look for, artifacts. If you are found with an artifact that you found in the wild, we'll say, that's like a felony now. You have to turn it into the government.
I've heard that.
This is crazy to me, because when we were kids, we would find arrowheads all the time and take them to hell, and now it's like they're so petrified of people actually digging on their own property and finding stuff that's not explainable.
Yep.
How can they do that?
I don't know if it's like that in Illinois. I still hear people, going out, and we go out and look for arrowheads and stuff in the field behind us, but
I mean, it doesn't.
I don't know if there's that you're supposed to legally turn them in or document them, but I know there's just so many people that still find axe heads and arrowheads and all this stuff in pottery.
Well, what about stuff that we've had from our parents? My mom collected stuff. My dad collected stuff. It got passed down to us kids. Yes, we've got arrowheads and stuff. Are we supposed to turn something in that?
Don't turn it in.
Found 50, 60 years ago? It's just, I don't buy that.
Don't turn it in. Whatever you do, do not turn it in, because just keep it. Just play dumb. I mean, I laugh because up in the North Georgia mountain, we also have this thing called moonshiners. I don't think the government wants to go into the woods and mess with those moonshiners. So, if anything, the moonshiners will protect you. I know some cops down here in Atlanta, and they tell me that they go up there to buy some moonshine, and they'll never pop a moonshiner unless they're forced to, because they're customers as well. They're like, they're not hurting anybody. Just leave them alone.
Right.
So, so if you ever in Appalachian, you come across some barrels and some men out there, they're just moonshining, just leave them be. But it's just so do you guys think that I have a feeling, for me, and the United States is a really big, I think for a lot of my European viewers, I know Australians viewers get this and Canadian viewers get this, but our continent is so big here. Just our country alone, the United States. We're so much, one state is the size of a country in
Right.
Europe. So I have a feeling my synopsis is Illinois all over the Southeast was kind of Egypt. What do you got? Do you think it was the whole continent or do you think it was part of it? Do you think Israel is also here in the United States?
I believe that what the rabbit holes I've been going down, it wasn't just Egypt. Israel was over here also. And I wish I knew what show I was watching about a week ago that they're saying there's a place in one of the national parks in the mountains that they won't let anyone get to, that they know that's where Christ was crucified. And they're keeping it secret. And you're not allowed to get there. That makes sense.
Well, they talk about the parting of the Red Sea. There's that I've seen people speculate like Baja California, so where Mexico is, there's this like kind of tail of California. It's not in the United States, but it's there in the continent. They think that's where that was crossed.
Right.
Mexico as well. One thing that I think really stumps people who have a hard time accepting this is corn. We see corn on the hieroglyphics of Africa. You guys, corn is from Mexico, maize. And according to the official narrative, it didn't come over to Europe and then disperse throughout the world until after Columbus in 1492 came here.
How many palm trees do you see over in Egypt and Israel? You don't see a lot of palm trees either. It's not green and luscious.
Nope, but you know what it is?
Palm trees also.
South Georgia, Florida.
Right. So I was going to get into that a little bit since you guys brought it up. Let's go ahead and I'm sure I think you've showed this map on your show before.
Yeah.
That's what I've seen.
Where if you have Israel and California and all the whole West Coast, and you have Egypt and going down the Mississippi and going in the Egyptian Sea, and we have that temple down here. If we'd had Louisiana down here, you had the Temple of Cleopatra and all that, and Babylon. So not very good for Illinois and Great Lakes being Babylon, but anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Red Sea. A lot of maps, a lot of old history maps have California with the lake that used to be in California. It's all dried up now because of resources. They didn't manage it very well. Was actually the Red Sea, or they say it was translated to the Red Sea. If you go by the Native American names or the Spanish names, it all becomes Red Sea.
So interesting.
And there's no high mountains over in Israel. I mean, they've got like one or two mountains, but they're hills.
Yeah, right.
They're calling them mountains, but they're not mountains over there. We've got the mountains. They've got little hills.
It's like kind of pathetic. Like it's a hill. We seriously have mountains here. Like we have hardcore mountains. Like
Right. We go there and we go, oh, that's a mountain.
So if the Israelites were in captivity in Egypt, say this is in the United States, we're using this as a biblical map, and then they were freed, they would travel west, and they would, you'd have Mount Sinai maybe where Moses spoke to God and had the 10 Commandments. You wandered through the desert, which would be probably Death Valley.
Yep, because that's the desert. That is.
Yeah, so you could easily spend 40 days and 40 nights in the desert, and then you would end up in Israel, and and you have the Red Sea, and it makes sense. Is this actually true? I have no idea, but it's just so intriguing that everything fits if you put it in this context.
It fits better than they say that America's the new world. No, it's actually the old world. It's
Right.
the whole Mississippi River thing. You're talking about the seven streams. How come we call it the mighty Mississippi? Like, how come we have that here, but they don't have that in the Nile? How come we have all these fake lakes that they've created during the Great Depression to generate energy and give jobs, but they were drowning out literal ISIS temples?
Right.
Well, like bullshit. Like what's that kid in the car? He's like, a bullshit. How come this is? They say there's even Florida fascinates me. my boyfriend's family has a long lineage of Floridians, and I never spent a lot of time in Florida as a kid because my mom's family's from the coast of South Carolina, so that's always where we went. But there's this Siesta Keys, which the sand is all crystallized. And a key is an island. It's the only key in Florida that, and science, oh, it came from the Appalachians, but well, there's a lot of other keys it could have hit before that. Like,
Right.
was this not a pyramid? Like, is this not the destruction of a pyramid that people are walking? Like, they talk about a lot of golf courses are put on top of mounds.
Yes, I've heard that. Mm-hmm.
And that's why you have golf courses in random places here in the middle of Atlanta, Georgia. We've got in the middle of a major metropolitan, like right down this, there's a golf course. And then you start to think about it, and you're like, why? Unless you're hiding something.
Right. Well, speaking of Florida, have you heard that, gopher wood that the ark was made out of is only found in Florida?
Interesting. Well, I know the gold the Egyptians used is only found in the state of Georgia.
Oh, wow. I didn't hear that
There you
one.
go.
That's something
Oh,
my boyfriend
wow.
that he did in his research. He's been awake since 2001, the only gold that they use is only found for some reason here in the state of Georgia, the southeastern United States. So it fits.
That's what I mean. Everything is so connected that you could easily put the biblical text and the Egyptian culture right here in the U.S. Now, whether it was part of the Grand Canyon all the way across the whole U.S., that, you can go either way on that, but definitely the Missouri River Valley and the Mississippi. I mean, you take all that, it just fits the narrative so well. And you were talking about the Egyptians with the maize and the corn and stuff. Well, there was scientists and archaeologists that took of the mummies and found cocaine in the mummies. Have you seen that?
I love it. For some reason, they were having fun. It's fine. But it comes from the South America, right? The cocoa.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So, and also they found nicotine, tobacco in their bloodstream, in their DNA.
Wow.
So they didn't have tobacco and cocaine in Egypt. Guess where they had it? South America, like you said, and North America, going into the Indians.
The peace pipe. I've actually, I've done peace pipe before, where it's a pipe and they put different tobacco in it and pass it around. I've done that before. So you're right. That's very much a part of what we call Native American culture was the peace pipe.
Yeah.
That's yeah.
So if these mummies in Egypt that they're bringing out of the Kings Valley and they're testing them and they have cocaine and tobacco, nicotine in their samples that they're taking, were they in North America and South America, or did they have a trade already going there? Which would, if they had a trade, that would mean that they were here in North America and South America.
See, I go back and forth with that myself, and I kind of have two different working theories. People have shown photographic evidence, and I don't know, you never know the AI, like what's real or what's not anymore, where after the mud flood, they were reconstructing Egypt over in Africa. Pictures of them actually moving artifacts. You think about Napoleon, he raided Egypt, right?
Right.
Like, is there more to the story where they were moving artifacts from the Americas to this particular place? And, the establishment, the elite, whatever you want to call them, they're maniacal, but they're not stupid. They always have reasons for doing things. And there has to be why do you guys think that speculate, why have they worked so hard to confuse us and to change our history and to change our geography?
Well, that's a difficult question. I mean,
that baffles me. I keep thinking that, like, why are you hiding stuff? Why are you lying, going out of your way to destroy evidence? I don't understand what their motive is.
I don't know if it's pride or what it is, whether they think, okay, if we tell them the truth that there was a highly technical advanced civilization here before us, does that make them look bad? Like they didn't ever do anything, like I mean, we had free energy supposedly with the pyramids and the towers and the Tartaria. And,
The
I mean,
old world.
there's just so much stuff that was there and was destroyed or covered up. So I think a lot of it is pride comes before the fall.
That's kind of I think they want to see how much they could push our brainwashing so that to see who would fall in allegiance to them. Well, and we also know they're narcissists and psychopaths, and narcissists and psychopaths never see a world where they're going to fail. But I also have a working theory. Now, I've gone through all the missing, well, not all the missing books of the Bible, and we know the Bible that we have now has been heavily tampered with.
Oh yeah.
Missing books give a very different story. Actually, the missing books Bible give way more liberation and way more sovereignty. But the only book of the Bible, the Bible, the authorized Bible that is owned and has a copyright by the Windsors, by the way, you guys. So why would the Word of God have a copyright on it?
Right.
Right.
Well, cognitive dissonance there. But the book of Revelation, for me, and that book was a missing book, but they kept banning that book and bringing it back. Out of all the books in the Bible, that's the one that I take the most serious.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's very telling. And I do not think that we are at the apocalypse. I think that the apocalypse has already happened.
Bingo.
I think we're at Gog and Magog.
We went down that rabbit hole about 5 months ago, and we try not to bring it up much on our show quite yet, but yes, our timeline, we're off in the timeline.
They want us to believe we're at the apocalypse.
Yeah.
Because they feed off of fear.
Mm-hmm.
And that you can brainwash people off of fear. And you can get them to follow false leaders off of fear. Operation Blue Beam, when I first covered that, the original, thank you to that. Sergei Monat, was that his name? He was a French Canadian. He is no longer with us. They heart attacked him because he did a lot of snooping in the 90s. And the original Operation Blue Beam was not aliens. It was Jesus. They were going to put a hologram Jesus in the sky as the second coming to move people into the New World Order.
Yeah, we went down the little season, Satan's little season, whatever you want to call it, and it's interesting because it fits right. Just like what we've been talking about, it fits right into the narrative and how you look at it.
Yeah, the dots connect. I mean, we've been going down rabbit holes for years, but when I came across this, I went, that's the only thing that makes sense on these old buildings and the cathedrals is Christ's millennial reign actually happened already.
Already happened.
Yes.
Gog. So good news is we're at Gog and Magog. Bad news is we're at Gog and Magog. Like
a double-edged sword.
You're not crazy. The world's really screwed up right now. It ain't the apocalypse. It's worse. But they talk about, my boyfriend and I are students of the Law of One. And the Law of One talks about, and also the Cassiopeans, which are a subsect of that we're about to have an ascension. We're moving from third density to fourth density, which also lines up with Gog and Magog.
Mm-hmm.
You read the last part of Revelation, it talks about after it's over, it's over. And it talks about the God that we know now will be the real God will come back, which is wild to me. So, and we know like Satan, Lucifer, whatever, the darkness has full reign right now. That's Gog and Magog. They come back out. And Lord have mercy. They started by a mud flood and jogged our minds and moved. But also I think it pulls our own sovereignty out of us. Like if we realize that we come from people who could do this, knew how to create free energy, were service to others, were peaceful people, were smart, we're connected to the divine. They want us to believe we're just an accident.
Yeah.
Oops, Big Bang, whoops, there we are. And then we came from animals and that's it. We're nothing more than a blip on the cosmic whoopsie-daisy. But if we knew the truth, then we would be more confident in our head-to-head with them, if that makes sense.
Right.
And it wasn't just free energy that they're hiding, because For years, we were thinking, okay, they're just hiding the free energy. It's not just a free energy. They're hiding a 1,000-year timeline. And I also heard that there could be 700 years added to our timeline. So what year are we in? We don't even really know. I don't think we're in 2025.
Oh, I don't think we are either.
Oh, I know we're not.
No.
That's just my feeling.
No, I mean, they mess with our, I know like a lot of time, because we know they corrupt religion, they corrupt spirituality, and astrology is the calendar of God. And our ancestors knew how to read the stars to figure out where we were in the year. Yeah. And they've changed, October is 8. November is 9.
I heard that.
So they messed everything around. They took us from like women get their cycle once a month, the moon cycle. The women are on a moon cycle, but yet we're 28 days, not necessarily this. Like it's and I will say, because this is what I do offline for men, you have a cycle every 3 months. You're the solar cycle. So Gerald, if you get bitchy every 3 months, it's fine. it's just for men, period.
There you go.
There you go. It's just your man.
Yeah, we did a show on the turtle shell and the 13-month calendar and 28 days, and we covered that pretty extensively. That's fascinating. I mean, it's so weird how all this stuff starts bubbling up to the surface, and you find it little at a time. I guess maybe you find it when you need to find it. I don't know. It's amazing.
And of course, our sponsor today is the Esoteric Academy. The Esoteric Academy is a virtual online mystery school, or Shala, where my friend Paula and I have opened this particular virtual Shala in order to help as many people as we can. As many of you guys know, I spent a good portion of my 30s in India studying traditional yoga with one of the foremost Param gurus in the traditional yoga system of India. I am the only female who's authorized to teach this particular form of yoga in the state of Georgia. Now, with that being said, what I've done is I've taken all of the things that I have learned about the energetic body, the chakra system, the bandhas, the meridians, somatic healing, the axis point, all of these things we talk about in this Great Awakening that have to do with the body, that are energetic but manifest in the physical. I've taken all of these lessons from traditional yoga and I have incorporated them into modern day exercise classes that are more feasible for people who want to do this in the comfort of their own home. Traditional yoga can be very complicated and needs a one-on-one teacher, but with this virtual Esoteric Academy, you're able to learn all of these lessons again in the comfort of your own home, and you get me as a teacher. You get access to me to help you help yourself. Within the Esoteric Exercise playlist, we have so many different types of exercise, from walking videos to intense cardio to traditional yoga to bar fusion classes to strength training to even classes like the one here where we use a chair. Every single level from beginner to advanced is met on this academy. And again, once a month, you get a live class with me where I can workshop with you to help you with your own body's alignment. On top of that, you get monthly phone calls with Paula and me where we discuss things like the doshas, quantum healing, again, somatic healing. And on top of that, we have the privilege of having other master teachers join us on this platform, including my friend Cindy Ola and Todd Roderick, who is the senior most teacher in the southeast of the United States. At the Esoteric Academy, we also have a playlist full of courses, including the Alchemy of Movement, courses on the Bhagavad Gita, courses on health, healing, and beyond, a look at Ayurvedic, homeopathic healing, as well as different quantum healing practices provided by Paula and meditations. We are also developing a Vedic chanting course with Todd Roderick, who is also been granted permission to teach a very, very traditional form of Vedic chanting. And we have a new course where we are combining the teachings of the Cassiopeians with the Yoga Sutras. Now, right now, we are running a special. We try to keep our prices super low for many, many reasons. We want to be able to help as many people as possible. And we can do that on a virtual platform where we can keep the prices low so that we're able to maintain the business while helping as many people as we can. But right now we are offering specific deals with a bunch of different content creators. So for today, for this video, I'm going to be using Catherine Edwards' code. So if you want to check out the Esoteric Academy for either the $25 a month tier, which is just the exercise classes, or the $40 a month tier, which includes all of the exercise classes as well as the courses, you can get 20% off the first 6 months of your tuition at the Esoteric Academy by using the discount code Catherine5. Catherine with the C, that will be on the screen in front of you as well as down in the description box below. On top of that, you also get 7 days of a free trial. Now, please make sure that when you use this discount code that you put all the letters in capital in the discount code area when you go to check out. Again, that's Catherine5 with the C, all capitalized letters. That will be down in the description box below. And we look forward to seeing you over on the Esoteric Academy. Now back to the show. I mean, well, the new year we know is in the spring, not the dead of winter. Janus was the god of that we on January 1 they would do sacrifices to this god Janus. That is how they now manipulated us to party and celebrate around a god that they would do sacrifices to. And then we have the new year was actually in the spring, which makes more sense, right? When new life is coming back, it makes way more sense.
Right. New life begins.
That's even biblical. If you look at the festivals, the head of the year was actually in March, close to April.
Yeah. And that's the zodiac starts with Aries. That's which is then starting into the spring. So, they've tampered with this stuff that, the church would call like dark arts, but it's not. It's literally so they've gotten people to I always tell people, if you want to understand how they did that, it's called the Hess Act, which happened in World War II, where, I don't know if we'll say Hitler, because I don't know if we can say his name. Or in the Yahtzees. You never know what you can say anymore.
Right. Right.
Because it's Gog and Magog, guys. So it's crazy times. So Hitler and the Yahtzees made a pact with the Pope at the time to put out propaganda to try to dissuade people from using any type of spiritual knowledge of astrology, because they wanted to dumb us down.
Yeah.
Right.
They wanted to have their kids know how to use it. Their people know how to use it. Oh, we lost Jane. They got her. No. So,
can you still hear me?
Yes, we can still hear you.
Oh, that's now.
that's the establishment going. So, yeah, the Hess Act. I discovered that in my research when I was looking into the Thule Society and from World War II and the worship of the Black Sun, which is Saturn. Right. That they had done that to try to create this propaganda where if you dared look at astrology, you're of the devil. So normal people trying to be good people stopped looking into that stuff, which dumbed them down even more to understand God's timing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and it's weird, during that time, World War II, not only was Germany looking in archaeologists and trying to find the Spear of Destiny and the cup and all this stuff, the Holy Grail. So they were going into the dark arts, into the mystic, they even had the foundation of the women, and I can't remember the name. I
think it was the Thule. Yeah, there was the Society of the Women with the woman thing. Yeah.
And so they were going in the dark side and the spirituality. So they, like you said, they were trying to sway us one way, but yet they were going the other way.
Yeah.
And then I was going to say also with the dumbing down, it was the German army that their leaders and stuff would say outright that tell the biggest lie and tell it loud as you can and repeat it over and over and over, and the people will believe it.
Yep. And that's what we see now, don't we?
Absolutely. They just keep repeating the same stuff. Even if they know it's a lie, they just keep repeating it to get their agenda out, and the American people will just eat it up. Well, we're kind of fighting back now a little bit, but there's majority of the people are still believing whatever they hear because it's repeated over and over and over.
Legacy, yeah, it's programming, legacy media, man. It's that propaganda, that fake news. It's you know, I've been following the Gypsy Rose Blanchard story, and that's another Mockingbird Media twist. She's guilty. She unalived her mother. You know, but they sold this whole Munchausen by proxy story. Well, none of that's true because her medical records had been released. She was sick, and I was saying to someone who's in that community, I was like, you know, if the media is lying about this, what else are they lying about? This is not their first rodeo. This is why people are in this Gypsy Rose community are so like, oh my God, I can't believe the media is not telling the truth. I'm like, I can.
Absolutely.
They're good at this. This is what they do. Like, this is not their first rodeo lying about shit. Like,
and they don't retract anything. They don't apologize. They just move on like it never happened when they get caught. Then they move on to the next story that they tell.
Yep, they double down, and it's I mean, Russia. Like and they pick their words, and it's all, in my opinion, it's a form of black magic what they're doing.
Absolutely.
It's hypnotizing. I mean, when I was a little girl in the 80s and the 90s, we didn't have 24-hour news stations. There was like an hour at night for the news. There was morning news. It wasn't so in your face all the time. But that, I think all that being in your face all the time is a part of black magic and a part of hypnotizing you. It's the cognitive dissonance is just wild to me. It's wild.
Yep.
You know, but I think that that's Gog and Magog, right? That's
yeah. And we're getting close to that.
It brings up the point that we've had so many resets, and all this is part of the resets, whether the mud flood was a reset, Noah's flood was a reset, the Babylon Tower. I was going to talk about the Babylon Tower. So if that was in the U.S., if we had the Egyptian and Israel and the Jews in the U.S., and the Babylon Tower was a mass spread of the people and mix up their languages. So maybe that was another way of getting rid of history.
I was going to ask you about the Tower of Babel, if you thought that happened in the United States. According to the Cassiopeians, Tower of Babel was created for good. It was like to communicate with other terrestrial beings. And the bad god, Luciferian god, is the one that the Lizzies, as they call it, the lizards, is the one that destroyed it so that we would lose connection
Right.
to outside sources.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like that map I showed earlier, it had Babylon on there, so it could have easily been in the U.S. I mean, there's other TikTok people that show detailed maps where they're finding places during like the crucifixion, you know, where the Ten Commandments were, the Mount Olives, and all the places in the Bible that's described. They're finding places in the U.S. they think fit perfectly, and they're making these Google Maps showing all the locations of these, and the Babel of the Hanging Gardens, the Babylon Tower. It was all in there.
So
Well, the old maps show that the North Pole is where Jerusalem was in the Garden of Eden.
What's interesting, the Cassiopeians say the Garden of Eden was the whole world. It was the way we were before the Lizzie stepped in. The lizard bee, I call them the Lizzies. I like to call them the Lizzies. It makes it YouTube friendly. They had us in mind. But, you know, in the Great Lakes, you know, I've had people say that there is speculation that the Great Lakes are not natural. We think they're natural, but they're not, that they were installed.
They look different on the old maps.
Yeah.
We did a show on that also about culture or people that were up in the Great Lakes that were here before the Native Americans that we knew. And it was actually a thriving community up there along the Great Lakes. And then eventually the Great Lakes started filling in and getting bigger and bigger and forcing that people out of that area. But you can go in the Great Lakes and find all these foundations, and I think it's a drop 45 that is called, where they can show where prehistory people would take animals down this valley, and they would be rounded off with nowhere for them to go, and they would be up on the bluffs killing them, and that's in the Great Lakes.
Interesting. So I wonder if you drained the lakes, what we would find.
Oh, wow.
Oh my gosh.
Under the
Somewhere
lake.
I have a map of all the artifacts and stuff that somebody has speculated that isn't around the Great Lakes. I'll have to find those maybe if we do another show. Or
Absolutely. I totally want you guys to come back and do more shows, because there's just the endless topics to talk about this. I will say too, Oak Island off of in Canada, the American
right.
this is interesting. The Cassiopeians have recently said that Oak Island, whatever is there, is a device, like it's kind of like a tuning device. It's and there's a grid. There's more Oak Islands in the world, and it can work by itself, but with others. And get this, it was put there in the 1500s by the Rosicrucians. So white people,
yep,
in the 1500s were dropping device like that. Totally blows our history away. This is a device that we can't even create today in 2025. But you tell me in the 1500s, when they were burning people at the stake for being Protestant witches,
yeah,
yet they were putting devices that actually are more technologically advanced than like our cell phones.
right.
One of these is not like the other. It should not add up.
I don't buy the gold rush and finding gold in mines. No, they were finding these buildings and cleaning them out. And that's why the elite is so rich today, because they claim the buildings, they claim jewels, they claim silver, gold, all these relics. And so that's why they're worth millions and trillions, is because of their assets of what they stole, not a gold rush of gold mining.
I never thought about that. Because you look at like San Francisco, and have you guys watched that 7-hour documentary that really got me with San Francisco? Like, you can't tell me, obviously, with a lot of the other buildings, like obviously people in carriages and horses weren't building. But San Francisco, I lived in California for a while. I love San Francisco. It is such a meticulously built city, older city. No way were people in like pioneers and wagon. Laura Ingalls Wilde was not out there like.
Right. I mean, just look at the TV show Bonanza. They talked about going to Carson City and out in California to San Francisco, and how marvelous and technology they were showing even on that. I mean, I know it's a TV show, but still, you had two different aspects. You had the pioneers, the cowboys, the people living in log cabins, just developing the land, and all of a sudden they say, "Oh, let's go to San Francisco." It's like, what do you mean San Francisco? How is that even developed and huge city and population?
I thought it was supposed to be wooden saloons and casinos and all that.
The Wild West, Wild West.
Yeah.
I mean, no, it's crazy. And when you've been to these cities and then you think about it logically, you're like, there's no way. There's no way that this was built by our pioneers, people who didn't even have electricity. They didn't have electric tools. I mean, I say that about DC. I actually, the last time I think DC would be a great place when it gets cleaned up. I like the way that you can tell the buildings are Tartarian. They're not sinister. They were put there. Oh, and that's one thing in the Capitol Dome. I haven't been able to go inside the Capitol because of everything that's gone on. It was blocked off. But where President Trump was sworn in this past time, up in the dome is a carving of Mary Magdalene. Why would there? So if this is Tartarian, then that asks another question. So if it's not possible for our founding fathers, from the story they tell us, would have been had the technology to build buildings like in DC, those buildings are the arts, the way just on this corner, it's very Egyptian, it's a work of art. Right. But you're telling me, so this was Tartarian. Why is there a Mary Magdalene in the carved up in the top of the Capitol building? It's wild. Right.
And how they haul the granite and the marble with no trucks, and I mean, it's just totally impossible. We didn't build the trains. Abraham's Lincoln train was so beautiful. Yeah. They did that while they were killing Indians. I don't think so. They were digging up the railroads. They weren't
Yeah.
building them. We have no
Well,
factories for steel or any of this.
well, speaking of Lincoln, in the Lincoln Memorial, have you guys been to the Lincoln Memorial?
No.
That was one thing that when I was there, it was the most peaceful place. But you walk in, on the side, there are Egyptian hieroglyphs, like on the side, inside, like where Lincoln is sitting on the side, and it
Yeah.
says above it, this is a temple. It's a temple.
Wow.
So was this built for Lincoln? Or was it already? And you know, it's on top of a hill. So I would guess that if they pulled the hill back, took some bulldozers,
Mm-hmm.
there's probably a whole, I think, because you have to walk up. I think what we go to in the Lincoln Memorial is probably the top of a temple.
Probably.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting because you go there and it's always crowded, but people just get real quiet when they're in there. Very quiet in there. And you feel that. But this was
Well, you know, there's Cleopatra's Needle in New York Central Park, an obelisk. You know, so I mean that kind of fits right along the timeline of Abraham Lincoln, and like you just said, the hieroglyphs in the temple there. So I mean, why do we have an Egyptian obelisk in Central Park in New York? They say it was a gift gave to us from Egypt, but we're talking about an Egypt culture that was already here. So
have you guys been to Untermeyer Park?
No.
So I did a deep dive into Untermeyer Park when I picked up my late friend's work on the Son of Sam case, because that's where the cult was. But Untermeyer himself, that the park was his estate. It is full of Egyptian artifacts, Roman artifacts, and the story is that he was importing this stuff. Whatever. He was not importing columns from Rome. Like, no, that was not happening. It's looking into Untermeyer himself, and Untermeyer Park was one of the most fascinating deep dives for me personally I've done, because it was so unbelievable. It was Untermeyer himself was a scumbag. He was definitely honeypotting before Epstein even came along. He totally twisted Woodrow Wilson's arm into getting like the Federal Reserve and all that kind of stuff. He blackmailed them, all that kind of stuff. But beyond that, that property, he bought the property, but I believe all that stuff was already on the property on Untermeyer Park. And then Aleister Crowley used it. Like a lot of these big characters from that time period would come in and out of Untermeyer Park. Or it was just his house at the time. It wasn't a park. He left his property to the city. I think it was upon his children's passing or something. But there's all sorts of like Venus worshiping. Like back when the Son of Sam in the 1970s, it was kind of run down. And that's why a lot of these occultic groups were using it, because there was all this stuff there that was Egyptian and they were doing all their satanic stuff. But, you know, if you look at things from a neutral perspective, like they were utilizing stuff that was already there from a different time. And the story became twisted that Untermeyer brought it there, but no, he didn't import this stuff. Like it is, some of the photographs from that time were wild. And of course, now the park has been cleaned up by the city, but they've actually taken away some of the it's wild. Another TikTok I saw, the guy was like, you know, New York City is one of the oldest cities in the world. Which is not the story we're told as Americans, right? It was like the Dutch came first and built, and then, you know, I know a lot of people think of New York as like Italian, but that's actually came way later. It was the Dutch that really settled that area, that turned into New York. So, but no, it's just overwhelming. Is there anything else you guys want to show today, or should we do a part 2? What do you guys want to do?
Well, I have a couple more pictures that we could show if you'd like, and then we can dig deeper into the next show.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
So this is from a show that we did on our channel when we talked about a little Egypt in Illinois. And this is coming from St. Louis on top of a building. So on top of this building, there are these Egyptian-looking, almost Sphinx-looking statues on top of this building. And guess where it is? If you line up straight, you got the Arch of St. Louis, and this is right, looking right in the middle of the gateway to the west.
It's not a coincidence.
So to me, that looks Egyptian. I mean, it could be something else. Maybe I'm just picturing it that way. But
do you know what year that they claimed that was made? Or I mean,
I not right offhand. I do have it written down somewhere.
That's
whatever date they give us is bullshit anyway. So.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Wow.
That's the Memphis Sphinx in Memphis, Tennessee, the big Sphinx down there that people are like, oh no, that was just built in reverence to, Memphis and Egypt. Wink, wink. And it's like bullshit. Like, I just,
And there's also, do you have anything on the Sphinx in Ohio?
No, I did not know there was a Sphinx in Ohio, but
this is Hinckley, Ohio, and it has this stone carved Sphinx that they found.
I didn't know this.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh!
You guys,
now, like you said, they try to portray it as being, well, this is somebody did it in the Egyptian style or whatever. No, I think the culture was here. I think even the Grand Canyon.
Yeah. This is why they don't want us poking around and looking for artifacts. So we find stuff like this and we're like, where did this come from? This is interesting. I also think too, I have a book, Catastrophobia. I know I've shown this book before on my channel, but for those who've never seen it, Catastrophobia. It's about things they do to us. Like they talk about like the witch trials, for example. Like I believe that I don't think the witch trials actually happened when they say they happened. I think that was them burning the people, the Tartarians, who knew how to heal homeopathically. And that was them prepping for, we'll say, schmarmashi. I can't say that. Pharmacy from the Schmuckafellers. They were preparing to ingrain us to have this fear of homeopathic healing because of our DNA from when people were burned at the stake and hung from being witches. When they were literally, I think they were the remainders of the Tartarian healers. But this book goes into this called Catastrophobia, that a lot of us have an ingrained fear of water because of cataclysms that might have happened in past timelines and resets, or from drownings. We have it in our DNA, and so they mess with that. So this theory puts out that they did a bunch of stuff back then. They had a long-term plan to get us terrified of it repeating so that we would fall under their control, if that makes sense.
Wow.
I mean, they're diabolical, but they're smart. You can't take that away from them. Really? They're smart. They're diabolical, but they're smart. That's wild. That is so unbelievably wild. I've never seen that. I cannot wait to show my boyfriend that speaks from St. Louis, because that's not a mistake with the arch. When did they tell you guys the arch? When was the arch allegedly built in St. Louis?
Early 1900s, I believe.
Probably wasn't.
It was supposed to be the gateway of the West, and supposedly the wagon trails leading right out from there, are so compressed that you can still see the trails today. But I mean, settlers, did we really settle the West?
No, I don't think so. I think our ancient ancestors did.
Yeah.
Not our current ones. not
I think we discovered the West. We explored the West. We went out there to conquer the West.
But it was already
there and well established.
The convenience is already there. Well, they talk about that with the Utah, with all the Mormon temples, that they were already there. Those were already other temples that were there that they utilized for the new Mormon religion.
Right. Absolutely. I think you can go to every place in the US and even across the world and find these buildings. It's like, no way did they build these when they said they did. Now, I mean, I think every culture, every nation has the same story, that there was previous people here before everybody settled that we know now.
Just the cathedrals alone are made so geographically perfect with frequencies, and the windows are actually shaped with the frequencies.
Yep. And we look at the stained glass, think, oh, that's beautiful, but that was put in there.
Yeah.
Right.
The energy couldn't get out.
Mhm.
I mean,
We did a show on our channel about the cathedrals and the way the pipe organs were there to induce healing and put you in that trance so you're accepted for the healing and what was going on. It's not necessarily the gospel message. It was all about the cathedrals are built for the frequencies to penetrate your body and to heal you.
Yep.
And same with the bells. They took away the bells out of all the cathedrals. The stained glass windows, when the light would shine through the windows, and each color has a frequency and a healing to it. So you put that together with the pipe organs and the bells. I mean, that was just that was basically a big medical center for like almost like a med bed treatment.
yeah.
They built those pipe organs during the cowboys and Indian days and just invented these pipe organs that they don't even know how to play it or to fix them. I think a lot of the instruments came out of the old world, as in guitars, pianos, grand pianos. They didn't invent that when they were traveling across the prairie.
Could you imagine lugging a piano with them in a horse-drawn?
Oh, I'm going to find these strings and I'm going to make these hammers hit it perfectly. And no, I think these all came out of the old world or the millennial reign.
Well, people make a good point, and I've thought about this too. You know, we look at the 20th century, from the 1900s to, or 1900 to 2000, how much progressed from us. We went from wearing petticoats, riding horses, to the year 2000, coming into the millennial, where we have the internet.
Yeah.
You know, you can't, but then if you look at all the 100 years after that, or before that, we're wearing petticoats and dresses and driving carriages, petticoat boats. But then in this last 100 years, we just sped up and went from, even in clothing, went from wearing petticoats to shorts and t-shirts. You know, like, you can't, that's weird. Like, that's super weird. You can't tell me that humanity just in 100 years, you know, we come up with the atomic BOMB. Like, you can't. But then all these millennials before, we were just wearing petticoats and wigs and driving, like,
yeah,
right. Like, all of a sudden just speed up. You know, one of my favorite places on earth is actually Versailles in France. And looking back at that castle with its gold and its mirrors and its crystals, like, did Louis the 14th actually build this? Or is that just a story? Like, that you guys like to tell us? Because how did he build this when he didn't have the equipment to build this?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So it's
amazing.
It's amazing. And so I actually want to ask our audience watching right now. First of all, make sure I'm gonna share. You guys do which I love. I love you guys do long form content. I love listening to long form content when I'm like WALKING. I have that's a trigger word. The dog. Make sure that you guys are, if you're not subscribed, please go over and subscribe to Midwest Night Watchers. I like the name of your channel too. That's a catchy title. And is there anywhere else you guys are? Are you just on YouTube? Do you have a Rumble channel or?
Oh no, we have Rumble, and also we just started going to Kick. And I mean, we do have a presence on TikTok and that, but we don't really do live shows or anything on TikTok. Our live shows are always on either YouTube or Rumble.
Yeah.
And Wednesday nights is our Night Owl Lounge, which we start late at night, which is for us it's 10 p.m. Central, and we sometimes go to 3-4 o'clock in the morning. We're just hanging. Because when we do our live shows with guests, we concentrate on the guests and the story, and a lot of times we get lost in the story. We don't really acknowledge the chat very much. We try to bring up questions from them. You know, that's just a live streamer thing. You get lost, and
yeah.
So the Night Out Lounge on Wednesdays is to give back to our chat, our followers. We go in there and we talk to them personally. We bring up whatever they talk about, and sometimes we get on a subject that could, and a lot of our subjects are what we've been talking about tonight. All of a sudden, we'll bring up an old U.S. history book. We'll just start going through it, and we're talking to chat for 4 hours, 5 hours sometimes.
Old maps, old Bibles. We just discuss all kinds of things on Wednesday nights.
Old Bibles are fascinating. That will shock you when you get some of those old Bibles. So you guys, please, I know you guys do a lot of cryptid stuff too, which I really want to talk about with you guys as well. Because I think it all ties in together. And so you guys make sure, I know I'm gonna have a lot of viewers over in the UK and in England, a lot of UK and England, but especially if you guys are up in the middle of the night on Wednesdays. For some of my UK people, that's perfect time for you, because you guys, it's in the daytime for y'all. So make sure that you are subscribed. And guys, do us a favor. The powers that be don't like us very much. We get shadow banned. They put us in the corner sometimes. So if you like this episode, please make sure to like the episode and leave it. Now, I know some of our UK friends can't comment because of what's going on in your country right now. And I think I can speak for you guys. We don't want you guys to risk going to jail for leaving a comment. So if you just want to leave your country flag or an emoji to help us help the algorithms get these videos out, trust me, I think I can speak. We don't really make much off of doing this work. This is, I think most of us on the YouTubes talking about this are doing it because it's important. And this is a service to others, us serving humanity. So please help us get this work out, and double check your subscriptions, guys, because YouTube likes to unsubscribe you from people's channel from time to time. So please just make sure. I don't know if there's a conspiracy there. That might just be a glitch in the system. And make sure to follow all the backup channels too, because you never know what's going to happen when the power. We're in Gog and Magog, so anything can happen. This is a wild card, isn't it? Oh, it's all out war right now. So you know, you guys, but I would even love to do a show with you guys, Jessica, as well.
Oh yeah,
we love Jessica.
I know Jessica. She's so Southern. I love the way she tells stories because she's so. I just love her. I love her so much. We've gone and done stuff with her before. My boyfriend really wants to go Bigfoot hunting with her overnight, and I told her that's fine. You can have him for the night. I'm going to be at the Holiday Inn. There's a limit for me. I'm gonna keep the dog too, because I think my dog would probably get eaten by it. He's too nosy. So yes, we love Jessica. So maybe we'll get her in on one as well. So
yeah, absolutely. We've been on her show 3 or 4 times or more. I can't remember now. We talk about all kinds of, just like what we're talking today, all kinds of subject, whether it's cryptids or weird stuff that we come up with. Some of our videos that we capture of the night sky, even.
Yeah, it's, well, you're lucky. I mean, I live in the middle of a city, so I don't really see. Sometimes we get excited about astrological events and we'll drive everywhere to try. We just can't see it in the city because there's so much pollution of light pollution. Stuff. But yeah, so I actually one day would love to have like a tour group. All of us weirdos in the United States, like create like a tour group where people can fly in and we could rent cars and drive to all these locations with people to show them. I didn't even talk about the springs, the healing springs in Florida, like that the Egyptians talked about. That we could talk about that next time too. I mean, it's just so much, you guys. So let us know, even in your country. So that's something you can comment, you guys. If there is something weird about your country's culture that you've kind of questioned. I know Catherine Edwards from UK, they call them mounds as well, and they were kind of given the same story we were, but it was their ancient people, so that's interesting. Or if you're from the United States and there's something strange in your state that's, I mean, I was going to ask you guys about Alexander Helios's money that was found in like Illinois, heaps of it, which is one of Cleopatra's sons. So we can talk about that next time too. Yeah. So much to talk about. I mean, it's just the establishment's fucked up a little bit. They didn't take into. I always tell people I'm petty and I'm nosy. So That will take you far. I will read through lawsuits. You best believe I will. Well, thank you so much, you guys. This has been so fun. I
Yeah,
cannot
it
wait
was
to
fun.
get back.
Yeah.
So you guys make sure again, go give them some support, and we will see all of you later, unless all three of us disappear, and then you guys know why.
Nice knowing you.
Yeah, we joined Kincaid. Kincaid disappeared too back in the Grand Canyon with the Smithsonian. So if we disappear, check with the Smithsonian. So,
Right. I hope they have nice little condos or apartments down in the bottom. I want to be comfortable if they're going to hide me.
Yeah.
right? Could you imagine that knock on the door?
But they wouldn't take us to the Smithsonian because they don't want people like us snooping around. Because I'd get out somehow and start looking at giant skulls and dinosaur bones. And
Oh, I know. I'll be like, I knew it. I knew it. You guys are liars. I knew it. I've said that to people. We have some historical stuff in my family that's been passed down, like doctors where they used to cut people. Like we have some, and my family's like, should we give this to like this? I'm like, do not give this to anyone. Like, hold this in our family. Do not give it to the Smithsonian. So yeah, that's lesson, guys. If you have something of value that you've inherited, you're not doing the country a service by donating. Hold on to it, because they will get rid of it. You were doing the country a service and humanity a service by holding on to it. So, so with that being said, you guys, if we go missing, you know what? That means we were right.
Yeah.
We won't though. We're still small fries. So we won't.
right.
So, all right, you guys. Well, for my channel this week, we've got Criminal Justice Chris coming back on with Rocker Mike, to talk about the occult and the Son of Sam case and other high-profile true crime cases. Plus, we have more readings with the Cassiopeans coming up. And then, of course, I think I'm coming on y'all's channel soon. We've got a whole plethora of stuff coming up this summer, you guys. And so, yeah, summer for us Northern Hemisphere people. But yeah, you guys, awesome. Well, we will all talk to you very soon. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.